help us give voice to our deepest feelings and share life's blessings and hardships with one another. We invite you to share your personal joys and concerns, but please refrain from politics, announcements, or speeches. Please join others in standing to my right. Once at the table, introduce yourself, select a stone, and drop it into the water as you voice your joy or concern. Children are welcome to participate. Please come up and share your joys and concerns. Okay, we can resume recording. And now it's time for our first hymn, which is going to be in the gray hymnal, number 134, Our World is One World. Hymn number 134.
You'll hear it played through once all the way before we start singing. And rise or sit as Spirit moves you to do so.
So our opening words are going to be a call and response type thing. I'm going to read the black bold type, and you will read the purple italicized type. We live in a world ripe with ableism that affords access and embrace to those whose bodies and minds function in certain ways and not others. For too long, we have been fed the misconception that our worth is tied to our productivity, leaving disabled people to be viewed as less vital to the wholeness of our beloved communities.
Grant us the wisdom to find worth beyond the tropes that capitalism enforces.
Throughout history, we have observed leadership, professionalism, and prophecy through an ever-narrowing scope that uplifts the temporarily non-disabled and diminishes the strengths of disabled voices.
Grant us the insight to witness, receive, and honor all ways of being.
Faith communities fought against the Americans with Disabilities Act in the name of historic preservation. These actions remain wounds in the hearts of our disabled brethren. For those seeking a diagnosis, the newly diagnosed, and those who bear the scars of medical trauma,
may they be loved out loud and sacred space held for the gravity of their stories.
For those harmed by religious stories, prayers, and infantilization that frames disability as an inherent flaw.
May they find affirmation and healing in our community.
for caregivers, loved ones, and advocates who fight as allies for the dream of an accessible world. For our own fears of disability and internalized ableism. Today's service contains discussion of the history of mental health and illness, including brief discussions on child abuse, slavery, and trauma responses. This may be activating to some members in the audience. If today's service becomes too much for you, I am not offended if you get up and leave at any point. Please take care of yourselves and be mindful of how you are taking in today's service. Hi, I'm Kelci. I was diagnosed as autistic at the age of 4 and as having generalized anxiety disorder at age 30, which then got updated to being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder last year. I have been going to therapy off and on for the last decade, and I have been subject to well-meaning and sometimes not well-meaning people thinking they know how to fix these issues. Even my own biological mother has fallen victim to the ideology that I got my autism from being vaccinated. While she totally ignores the autistic family members on my father's side of the family and the fact that autism is genetic. I've even seen PETA trying to tout that you can prevent autism by not drinking milk. I'm lactose intolerant, so joke's on them. I wanted to do a service about mental health because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think the intent with setting this month as such came from a well-meaning place. Mental health is an important part of life, and mental illness needs to be taken seriously. Though in practice, I see it showing up as pamphlets in workplaces talking about mindfulness and positive thinking, which is, I'm going to be polite and say, limiting. Mindfulness and positive thinking has their place and are generally safe topics for the average person to broach in the workplace. That said, I want to make one thing as clear as possible, as politely as possible. When it comes to conditions like anxiety, autism, PTSD, or even depression, there is no mindset magic that can cure these conditions. I lost my place. Positive thinking works for neurotypical brains or brains that are considered normal, which we'll get to normal in a minute. But thinking positively does absolutely nothing when you're in the middle of a panic attack. That's like trying to tell someone with a broken leg, you just need to walk it off. You cannot walk with a freshly broken leg, and you cannot think positively when in a panic attack. I don't think people say these things to be intentionally malicious, for the most part. Mental illness is generally an invisible disability, only visible once you've spent some time with the other person. However, as someone who has dealt with a lifetime of people telling me to think positively and don't let it get to you so much, it wears you down after a while. And as other autistic people can attest, you start to put on a mask when talking to those people because you're so freaking tired of people saying these sorts of things to you, and you have to just smile and nod. For people who tell me, just think positive, don't tend to like my honest response to that, especially when I'm already stressed. The framing of just think positively is an outgrowth of a philosophy that tends to treat brains and bodies as being separate. This is something that goes all the way back to René Descartes, who believed that human bodies could not think. That role, he argued, was for the mind. This worldview elevates thinking and mind processes as being superior, and that there was a right way and a wrong way to think. It eventually culminates over 400 years into a John Mulaney joke that goes, I don't know what my body is for other than carrying my head from room to room. But in all seriousness, I wish I could go back in time and have a word with René Descartes, because his philosophy eventually led to the development of psychology as it exists today. And oh boy, does the field of psychology have a rough and rocky history. Most neurotypical people associate psychology with people who are smart, who handle the mentally ill, and who know just the right diagnoses for a person's neuroses. Don't get me wrong, in some regards, the field of psychology has done good work. It's good to have names and treatments for specific conditions, but that work still has to repair a lot of damage that experts in the field have leveled in the last 200 years. For example, have you ever heard of drapetomania? This was a common mental illness in the pre-Civil War era, commonly diagnosed among slaves who tried to escape their captors. Many in the psychology field said, of course that's a mental illness. A mentally well slave would never want to leave. And post-Civil War, the hot diagnosis, especially among wealthy women, was hysteria. Turns out that men in the field of psychology at the time had no idea how to handle the stories they were hearing from these women of horrific childhood sexual abuse. So they created the label hysteria to encompass this reality. Up until that point, it was assumed that only the poor abused their children like that, not wealthy families. Even Freud changed tack to saying that the human brain sees sex in everything because he confessed that if he kept reporting on the actual amounts of abuse that he was hearing from his patients, that other experts at the time would not have taken him seriously. That's not even touching on the history of mental institutions. The field of psychology has a long, rocky history of propping up specific ideals of how people should behave, as I've just relayed, and that people who did not fit the ideals of how to behave were disordered. This even continued into the 1950s and 60s with diagnoses like passive-aggressive disorder, self-defeating personality disorder, among others that were popular in past editions of the DSM, aka the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the Psychologist's Bible of Mental Disorders. And in case you're wondering, homosexuality was considered a mental disorder in past editions of the DSM. As a sidebar, maybe one day being transgender will not be in the DSM, but we will see. According to the DSM-5, the most up-to-date version of this manual, I don't fit the criteria for autistic. So I'm cured, I guess? But even though the DSM has updated since then, for example, homosexuality is no longer a mental disorder, the DSM-5 does not always align with lived reality. And circling back to the discussion of mind versus body, more people are realizing that when it comes to health, the mind and the body are not separate entities. Unfortunately for René Descartes and others like him, it's not either or. It's yes and. The body keeps the score is more than just a neat title for a book that really exists. It's also very descriptive of how body and mind both work together. For example, depression is not just being sad. It's in fact not feeling anything because the nerve cells in your brain have stopped talking to each other due to chronic stress. People with post-traumatic stress disorder have trauma responses stored in their bodies because both body and brain's primary drive is to keep you alive during harsh conditions. So if a set of stimuli becomes too much, the body and the brain will work together to basically say, we're not going to process this event right now, we're going to store this in your memory until the moment passes, and then you can process it. And sometimes that moment to process never comes. So the body just stores the response and the memory until a stimulus activates it. When someone is triggered, that means a trauma response has been activated in their body, and the mind starts working in overdrive to make the stimuli go away, because mind and body are trying to keep you alive, and that means get away from the stimuli that's activating the pain response. So thinking positively does not do much for a brain that has stopped responding to anything, or a brain that's highly activated by a trauma response it hasn't processed yet, or any responses in between. But if you see someone in a depressive episode or someone who's been triggered and your first response is just think positively, know this: I do not hate you. None of us do. You are just responding in the way that most neurotypical brains respond to something you perceive as not normal. This response has been trained into you by society at large, saying that there is a right way and a wrong way to think and behave. It's better to change your perception by thinking of things like this. Instead of right or wrong or happy or sad, think of responses as being a spectrum. Happy and sad is a good binary for children to wrap their head around, but actual human behavior is not a binary. It is in fact very difficult to jump from happy to sad, or even for people with mood disorders. Instead, think of it as going from any state that you can think of, from happy to enraged to manic, and then go to neutral. It's also called baseline. Everyone's baseline is different and depends on how their brain and their body work together. The important thing to know about baseline is that this is the state where the brain and the body both feel safe. Baseline is not always happy. In fact, it rarely ever is. But baseline, or neutral, is where one can be at peace, and peace starts with safety. Thankfully, safety is easy to build. It can look like providing content warnings like I did at the top of this service. It can also look like deep breathing, slow walks to come back to your body, eating foods that don't give you the ick, and providing time and space for people to do things to regulate themselves. Everyone wants to feel safe and supported, whether they have a diagnosis or not. What we can do as you use Working Towards a Better World is nurture more spaces where people with mental health troubles can be safe. Safe to be themselves, safe from judgment, safe from stimuli that would trigger a trauma response. This benefits not only folks like me, but folks like you too. And I'm glad to have this space with you because here I am safe. Thank you. This is an awkward transition, but I'm going to make it nonetheless. Now let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this church, which is important to so many of us. We gratefully dedicate this offering to the good of the church, the wider community, and the world. If you make automatic pledge payments and would like to indicate this support, please place one of the yellow cards in the basket. If you want today's contribution to count towards your annual pledge, please put it in an envelope with your name on the front so that I know who to credit it to, since I'm going to be treasurer and processing that stuff. Bless you. It's time for our next hymn. This one's in the gray hymnal as well. It is number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
You'll hear a full verse of this too before we start singing, but sit or stand as Spirit moves you.
Today's closing words come from Rebecca Tossig's Sitting Pretty, the view from my ordinary, resilient, disabled body. When I was small and just learning how to do life in my body, I didn't hesitate, didn't hold back, didn't worry how it would look, didn't look for cues or ask for a line. My imagination ruled. I was entirely free to be, driven by the innovation my body inspired. This is the wild emancipation I wish for all of us. A world where we are all free to be, to move, to exist in our bodies without shame. A world that isn't interested in making all of its humans operate in the exact same way. A world that instead strives to invite more, include more, imagine more. That world sees the humans existing on the margins and says, you have what we want. What barriers can we remove so we can have you around? What do you need? How can we make that happen? Let us carry the flame of the chalice into the world, serving others with love and a sense of justice. Join me in reading the words provided as we extinguish the chalice. As we extinguish the flame on our chalice, we ignite it inside ourselves. Our commitment to our mission and to one another is an unquenchable flame. Let us remember that we are not alone until we light this flame next time. Before our closing psalm, we have time for a few brief announcements. Come to the podium if you have one to make. I do have one. We didn't get a chance to do this the week before last, but I have thank you cards for Lynn and Matt because they're exiting the board, and I asked members of the congregation to sign the thank you cards to thank them for their service these last few years. I think they're in the office. I'll give them to you later.
When I heard the hand. All right. Lisa
Everyone ooh and ah.
Huh?
Everyone ooh and ah.
Ooh. Lisa, Merrill, Price, and I are going to do a craft class here on June 13th from noon till 2. We are going to make a dot mandala. It is incredibly fun. It is incredibly easy. The sign up will be in the next newsletter as well as it's in the WhatsApp right now. The class size is limited to 12, and there is a $15 fee, but we do have scholarships available. So if somebody wants to participate and needs some help, just let Lisa or I know. And I can pass this around so you can see how pretty it is. And let us know if you have any questions.
That's amazing. Thank you for doing that, guys. I can't wait. So one of the benefits of being affiliated with the UUA is that we get to send representatives online to the UUA General Assembly, which is June 14th through the 21st. And this person or persons attends the meeting online, and it's multiple days and that. So I'm just curious to know if somebody would like to be one of the representatives from MVUUC to attend the meeting. Please let me know if that's the case. It's June 14th, and it's online, and you're named a representative of this congregation, and then they communicate to you the Zoom account and all of that other stuff. So let me know. You don't have to attend all the days, but there's certain things that happen on each day, and there's votes. And as a member of this congregation, you get to vote on behalf of this congregation for the hot ticket items that are going on at the UUA. I also want to do something in June, possibly maybe the first Sunday in June because it's of the potluck. I want to honor the two board members that are leaving. And then I want to welcome the 2 board members that are joining, because the board year starts July 1st. So June would be a great, transfer of power time. And I want, and I want to do something a little bit formal as part of the service. So, because it is a big deal. It's it's a responsibility, to look and to serve as a steward for this organization, for this congregation. And we're really proud that we have Robin and Phil coming on board, and we're really grateful for everything that Matt and Lynn has done over the past year. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys in June.
Hi, everybody. So, this is your 5-week warning? Of the blood drive. Of the blood drive, yes. 5 weeks, the next blood drive is happening. I know it seems like, didn't we just have a blood drive? We did just have a blood drive. Every 8 weeks, that's how it works. Every 56 days, we have a blood drive. So I hope you're not sick of when I come up here and talk about it, because it's really important. So if you'd like to donate, if you'd like to donate food, if you'd like to donate blood, if you'd like to donate time, let me know. And 5 weeks, guys. What's the date? Oh, yeah, duh. June, yes, June 27th. Thank you very much. Wait. 22nd. Yeah, 27th. Wait. Then it's the 27th. I'm sure it's the 27th. Yes, 27th of June, Saturday, 9 to 2. What's that? Oh, of course it is. BG Pride. BG Pride. You can do both. Donate blood. You could donate blood, then go and hang out there, or you could hang out there and then donate blood. The important part is donating blood. So tell your friends. Tell your friends and tell your family, make it a party, make it an event, everybody come, donate blood. Thanks.
Why is Steve up here? Oh, it must be Magic Day. 1 o'clock in the social hall. See this deck of cards here? Oh my golly. This is a special deck because gamblers in the Old West were often shot or hanged if they were caught using this deck. Not this same deck, but a deck just like this. And I have extra copies. We're going to be talking about what makes this deck so unusual at 1 o'clock in the social hall. Hope you can join us. Thank you.
Tina, are there any online announcements? Okay. Thank you, everybody. After the closing song, please join us in the social hall for coffee and refreshments. Thank you for joining us. The last hymn is in the green hymnal.
Stand or sit as Spirit moves you to do so. Morning has come, arise to greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.